Hey everybody, welcome to the Ocean Race Europe, day 4, and let's ride along with Team Militia. This is coming to us direct from the boat, and if you've been looking at the tracker, which I'll just bring up now, we are in the closing stages of this leg. And the reason there's such a flurry of activity for Boris Herrmann, Justine Mathieu, Cole Brouwer, Will Harris and everybody on board is because they're just bouncing off the English coast.
Yeah, copy that. Are you happy to go inside it?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a small boat as well.
There's a bit of traffic.
This feels quite good. Flat.
The wind looks lighter when we get to the cliffs.
Copy.
Okay, so much further back, unfortunately. Let's bring up that tracker and let's leave Team Militia, Amala, in 5th place at the moment, and they're in a slightly lonely position while the rest of the fleet are a long way forward. And the problem for Amala is that they're on the wrong side of the weather, they're on the wrong side of the tide, and the tide is really starting to stretch the fleet now. So those boats that are in the lead are going to be gaining. Those ones behind really going to start hurting. This is that hard bit of the race for the crew on board Team Amala, and for everybody really. You're in that final stage where you're desperately trying to work out whether you've got any chance yet left to sort of impact what's going on. That's Alan Rohr as the skipper, but at the moment on board Simon Costa is the man on the left-hand side of our picture. He's obviously just been studying the weather, what's coming up. Okay, so Canada Ocean Racing, be water positive. Scott Scheuer, the skipper, hip hair. And I think in the background is Georgia, the onboard reporter. Let's just take a quick look and see where they are. So they are this boat here, just squeezed between the exclusion zones, the shipping traffic, all those little areas that they've got to avoid. And they're just desperately trying to make their way to come down, but I don't think they're going to be able to do much damage to the leaders. Biotherm, the race leaders.
Si vous étiez aimable, peut-être que vos poches seraient bien remplies. Tu nous as combien de trucs? Ça n'est jamais arrivé, si tu veux.
Du bateau de pêche qui arrive souvent ici.
Ok.
Du bateau AS.
Non.
Il est à 1000, 0,7 000, 20 degrés à gauche.
On n'a pas l'AS.
Ouais, le bas dans l'autre sens, c'est bien.
This is something we've seen a bit over the last couple of days. seen the sailors not use the autopilot, but instead been hand steering. Amelie Grassi at the back on that bottom right-hand picture. She did the race last time around with Paul Meyer. Paul Meyer building a new crew, went straight back to Amelie. And you can see her with the tiller in hand, with Jack and Sam.
Thank you for your patience. Vous pouvez y aller. Sans modération.
The reason that everybody's on deck, and the reason we're going to see this on every boat, is because it is now manoeuvres time. And for pretty much every single team, it's going to be about bouncing off the English coast, bouncing off the exclusion zone, and just trying to find their way through. And where Biotherm is at the moment, let me just come down, the gap here that they are going through between this little bulge from the south coast of England and this greyed out area, this exclusion zone, the distance there is just a shade over 3 miles. So right now the wind is pretty good and they might actually be able to thread the needle through that.
Moi je le vois, il est quand même encore un peu loin. Mais... J'ai l'impression qu'il avance comme nous. Bah, qu'il va dans la même direction. Pas loin du J0, mais s'il y a des raisons que... Ah bah oui.
Sam Goodchild is sitting there eating a biscuit with one hand, his left arm, and it almost looks like he's scratching his shin, but I think he's got his hand on the pump, the hydraulic pump, and he's moving the foil into just the right position. Eating and working. It's amazing seeing the difference when you jump between the boats. Biotherm, everybody in the office has been saying the same thing. Biotherm has got the nicest vibe going at the moment. Obviously they're in the lead. Obviously they're doing pretty well, but they're also just incredibly chilled, and they've been that way since before the start line, really. And we've said it a lot, but Paul Meyer is such a different person than anybody has seen who was following the race in the last edition. Always a bit on the back foot, always a bit down on his luck. Bless him. But this time around, very different. So, Team Milizia really healing over. Now, Team Milizia in second place, but they're a good way back at the moment. And for this team, one of the reasons why you're seeing everybody awake, alert, working. Justine Matru, 2-time winner of the Ocean Race. She's on the winch handles. Boris Herman looking up, trying to get those sails sorted. They've just come out of a bit of a funny position with the coast, and they're trying now to get themselves down south. And the reason they've gone so close to the land is because the tide is against them, and it's going to be getting stronger. Biotherm is just about to break free of that tide and have the current turn behind them. So Biotherm's going to get an enormous boost, a huge push towards the finish line, so their lead was really stretched. And Milizia is about to feel the conditions turn against them. And they've been up all night. All this night, all last night. They had a bit of problems at the top of their rig. They had some fittings that weren't quite working. They had to climb the mast. Will Harris was going up. That means somebody down below had to winch him all the way up. And all that time, you're just thinking, oh, I'm losing distance, I'm losing miles, I'm losing that advantage. Back to the leaders.
Ok. C'est bloqué.
I'm going to give them a lot of credit here. Just looking at those shots inside with all the food, with all the gear and everything around. Gautier just getting some dinner. That is a remarkably clean boat. That is a remarkably clean boat for day 4 of an offshore sprint leg.
Tous les fichiers, on a pris, ouais.
Bah là, il y a le nouvel arpège qui est marié.
I know that the guys on board, Patrick Arkea, Pascal Bidigri, Johan Richon, were starting to complain about the smell of their boots, the smell of their feet. Perhaps that's why we're seeing these guys with their shoes off, just airing everything out while the weather's a bit decent. So Jack Boutel, another 2-time winner of the ocean race, just threading the ropes into their bag. A little bit of housekeeping, a little bit of tidying up. So for Sam Goodchild, British sailor, for Jack Boutel, British Australian, they kind of, a number of years ago, they sort of went, this is it, this is what I'm going to do. You know, Jack Boutel was 14, 15, I think, when he did his first edition with like Dongfeng race team, Will Nipper on the boat. They decided they really wanted to do this, they really wanted to get into this offshore world. And so what do apart from getting physically strong, getting mentally tough, learning about how to trim the boat, all the systems, repairing everything? And one thing they did is they learned French. And Sam Goodchild speaks fluent French, French sarcasm, French humour, because they can exist in this world. And you know, they're always around the Lorient, Le Basse, the home of the Imoca class and the home of sort of the premier of offshore sailing. And now on this boat, you can hear like the language, the conversation, the humour, the sort of camaraderie is all in French.
Est-ce que tu vois du vent à venir ou pas?
And then this is the British boat. So Scott Scheuer, Canadian, engineer, businessman, and clearly adventurer as well. And the one thing I think from this leg that will be wonderful for Scott Scheuer, the result, you know, they're hanging on to that front pack of 3. But there'll be some, I'm absolutely positive that Scott Scheuer will be so glad that the conditions on this leg have been largely kind. The sea state has been largely benign. This is a guy that gets chronically seasick. And I don't know if any of you have ever, you know, I don't know how many people get seasick on boats, travel sick in cars. I get terribly, terribly seasick. And the idea of getting seasick and choosing, paying, investing to get an Imoca, to build a team, to put all that time and energy into it, knowing, yeah, I'm probably going to be really sick and my skin's going to be green and my eyes are going to be bulging. And not only that, but I'm also going to have to work through it. Because you can't go down into your bunk, pull the sleeping bag over your head and just wait it out. You can't just vomit in a bucket and just roll over and go back to sleep. The whole roster of everybody on that boat needs to contribute. So hats off to Scott Scheuer, absolutely hats off. I think he's mad, I think he's crazy, I wouldn't want to do it myself, but also interesting that he's attacked it like an engineer. He was doing virtual reality stuff and weird glasses and anything and everything to try and chip away at that problem. And if that's not somebody that's obsessed with performance and gaining an advantage, I don't know what is. You cannot be onboard Team Amala. You cannot be... You've got Felix on the right, Simon on the left, as we look at it now, and they are right up close to each other. And they're two very nice people, but I'm sure they're a little bit sick of each other at this point, or at least they just like a bit more breathing room. And when you move around the fleet and you take a look at different boats, some people have got it good, and some people have really had to squeeze all their crew members into one space. I mean, that is living in a small VW camper van smashing down a bumpy track for days on end. You're never stopping and you're never going outside. That cockpit is so claustrophobic.
Ah, au final, c'était bien de l'avoir pour le Rich là, mais...
And then look at the difference for Team Militia. So we're always keen to kind of hear what you guys are sort of saying and comments, and I'm just going to have a little bit of a look while we ride along with Boris Herman, Justin Mitrou and the rest of the team. How tricky are the exclusion zones plus the ship traffic? Well, just a minute ago, actually, we heard Boris Herman and Will and Justine and Cole just talking about, well, there's a boat there, do we want to go below them, do we want to go above them? And if you look at our tracker, if I put our tracker on, it's great. So if I come out, we've got 5 boats on our tracker over here. But if you're there, you will see hundreds of boats. The visibility is not great at the moment, but where they're about to go through the strait here, between Dover and Calais, that is busy. Ferries going across, big ships going across. How much of a problem is it? I mean, I'm glad I don't have to do it, and I bet they're really glad that they're going through it in daylight. Really glad that they're going through it in daylight. All of the boats have got a system that can alert other ships when they're nearby, when they're not. But at the end of the day, it's a constant worry. The sailors are trained for it. The sailors know what they're doing. But it's a headache that you really don't want. So everyone was kind of nervous about this weird first leg that doesn't really have a big ocean, and the sea state's not going to be too bad. But it was certainly going to make them a little bit worried. And just look at the sweet sleeping quarters on board Team Militia and compare that with Team Amala that we were with before. There's so much space on this. So we might, this is the onboard reporter floor here, just at the back, just coming forward. Team Militia is the only boat with a great big sleeping compartment at the back of the boat, as big as a cockpit. And I think that Flora's going to get the drone out and bring it out on deck. It's always a little bit scary for the OBRs. Drones are not cheap to launch them, to catch them. So I'm not sure whether she knows that we're watching, but we wish her all the best. Let's see if she manages it. Just while she's getting ready, just a couple more comments. As someone was talking about how much the tide affecting the current in the English Channel. It's massive, massive. So where one of the boats are at the moment is about, Beotherm is kind of breaking out. They're about half a knot. Some of the other boats are in 2.5 knots, 2.5 knots against. That's a lot. You know, if you were in a little dinghy on a reservoir, you might be doing 2.5 knots and you might be high-fiving yourself thinking you were going really quickly. There's that much speed being stripped away from Paprikaker at the moment in the middle of the channel. Here we go, high pressure. Everybody's watching. Hopefully she doesn't realise. So just orientating the drone. Yeah, a little bit of a drone dance here. A little bit of a... just to get yourself dizzy before you then have to pilot the thing. But just getting the gimbal sorted and the drone aware of where it is in space. And if you've ever flown one of these drones, I mean, we talk so much about the skill of the sailors, but if you've ever flown one of these drones, they're great when you're standing in one place because they'll just hover there until you tell it to move. But if you try and do that on a boat, it doesn't work because the boat's moving. So you kind of have to turn off all these pilot assisting systems. You have to turn those all off. So it's a real skill to get it right. It's quite impressive when they're managing to actually keep everything beautifully in frame and then land it as well. All right, and another question here about the heel angle. Yeah, I was saying that Team Milizio looked like they were quite heeled for a bit. Well, there is the heel angle on the tracker. You can access that if you go onto the tracker. I won't do it on my small screen, but if you go onto the tracker, if you click on a boat, and then it'll give you the option to go to telemetry, and then there's some numbers that are kind of coming off the boat, and you can have a little bit of a look at some of the data there. It's not always accurate depending on whether the boat, the connection's perfect, but it's a really nice insight. Oh, and they've come up right. Good for floor here, light winds, beautiful cliffs. Okay, another really good question about Beotherm and the autopilot, but I won't take that one yet. I'm going to come to that about Amelie steering because I think that's a really good point. But there's one here. What do you think about the accident? And I'm guessing that there's only one accident that you're really asking about, which is Team Holcim PRB and Alagrande Mappe Racing, or Frank Camas skippering Team Holcim PRB and Ambrogio Beccaria on Alagrande Mappe. And what do I think about it? I think that it was very exciting, incredibly glad that I was not involved, and my excitement and wow, look at that. Formula One race, they crashed on the first corner. That very quickly gave way to the video with Ambrogio talking about how cruel the sport of sailing can be after all those weeks and months of preparation. And bear in mind, for Ambrogio and that team, Ambrogio he's a young guy, early 30s, and this is it. This is what he wants to do. This is, he gets his skippership, he gets his boat, he's built his team. About a month out, they look like they might be breaking their mast, they might not be able to do the race. They get here, they're high-fiving, we've done it, we've overcome all these obstacles. And he was describing how cruel that moment was for the crash. And the words that really stuck with me was he just said, my heart is broken. And yeah, I mean, my excitement gave way to, oh, blimey, yeah, that's really hard. Now, I guess what you're really asking is who do I think was in the right and who do I think was in the wrong? I think that I'm going to slightly hold back from weighing in too heavily because there will be a jury, not that they'll listen to me, but there will be a jury and there will be a hearing and I'm sure they're going to be sort of appointing blame. And I don't want to give you my opinion and then my opinion be proved wrong. But what I will say is that the basic fact of the rules put a little bit more emphasis on Ambrogio Beccaria to avoid, but no one really expected Team Holcim BRB to do what they did. Frank Camas, I mean, what, 3-time winner of the Ocean Race, America's Cup, this is the guy, right? I mean, if you step off, you're a mocker. You're one of these young, you're Johan Richomme here on Paprec Arkea. You step off your boat and you walk through Le Bas, and the first thing you see is an 80-foot high poster of Frank Camas on the wall. He's a legend. You wouldn't have expected him to spin out and lose control. So I think that no matter who ultimately is at fault, where the rules sort of lie, and I've got my opinions, I think that both teams will think, yeah, neither of us wanted to be in that situation and neither of us sort of did our best game. But there we go, that's racing. And what's really nice that's come out of it is both teams are helping each other, both teams are making sure each other are all right, and I think that my confidence is building that I think that they will be able to get to the start in Portsmouth before the beginning of leg 2. Hopefully I haven't jinxed it. All right, let's take a look at where.
No, sorry, before you go on.
Yeah.
So you were commentating on TV live at the time.
I know what you're going to bring up.
What? No, I'm just.
No,
what goes through your head when something like that happens when you're live on TV?
Okay, that's a really good question. I thought you were going to bring up what we discussed earlier, which I will bring up. But what goes through my mind when we're doing something like that, we discussed. So it was Emily Taylor-Nagel who was commentating with me, and I've known Emily for a long time, and she's done a lot of commentary. And we sat down before we started the show, and we said, we might have a crash. We might have an incident with the spectator fleet. You know, it's a thin chance, but it might happen. And we need to have a plan of what we might say in that moment, because obviously you can't swear. You can't sort of say things that aren't happening. I think this, I think that. So we agreed that we could only say something if we were certain. And when the moment of the crash happened, we were watching it on the screen, just like any of you guys, if you were watching it, and we saw, your eye naturally goes to the biggest thing. So we saw the jib get torn in half and the main get speared, and wow, incredible. And what we didn't see at the moment, is we didn't see the spreader, the deck spreader, and just like this one on Team Militia, the big black pole, we didn't see the spreader of Alagrande Mappe pierce, rip, destroy the side of Team Holton PRB. And we felt really bad, or I felt really bad. And we came off air and I thought, how did we miss that? You know, the cameras changed really quickly. How did we miss that? But then I discovered that actually the team of sailors on board Team Holton PRB, they didn't realise that they had a big hole in the side of their boat for about a minute, I think, afterwards. I was talking to one of them and they were saying, yeah, you know, we're heads down, we're racing, you hear an almighty bang, you think, right, is everyone okay? Are we still in control? Not quite, we've got to change a few things, but, you know, still going. And then somebody, you know, realised, oh, actually, we've got a great big hole. And that did make me feel a little bit better. It's not about me, it's about them. But what really stuck with me then was what we had Carolyn Brow, who's our sort of third commentator. She was on the water, and she's part of Team Holton BRB. And the tone of her voice really kind of brought it home, I think, for me and Emily. Was like, yeah, this is a million miles from where two boats want to be, which is heading back to dock and having to nurse their boats. But one thing I will say, I've been involved with this race for a good while, as a fan even more. And every edition, there is a moment where you think, that's it. Boat's broken, mast is down, sailor's gone, you know, broken legs, whatever. And they always come back around. They always find that way to kind of keep going. So I'm very, very confident that for Team Holton PRB and Alagrande Mappe, for Frank Camus, for Rosalind Kuiper, for Ambrosio Beccaria, for Thomas Riat, they're all of them incredibly experienced. They're all of them incredibly hungry, and I'm sure we will have them. You know, we'll have them back in this race. I mean, Pip Hare here. This is a really good example. So Pip Hare, in the middle of this picture on board Canada Ocean Racing, and she's one of those sailors that dropped a rig in the last Vendée Globe, had to jury rig it, had to do all sorts of stuff. And we concentrate so much on the results and we concentrate so much on the performance, but there is a huge amount of just the adventure. And I think in this sport, and again, I could be wrong, but I think in this sport, you don't get that many egos. And I'm sure people listening to this are thinking, yeah, we do. I know one of the two of them. And that's fair. But you don't get too many egos at this level, because there's always a big wave, a squall, something about Mother Nature that's just ready to smash you off your perch. So, you know, people like Scott Scheuer, Pip Hare, that we're seeing there, they've been through it before and they'll go through it again. And for all of the sailors in this race, the most important skill is resilience. Okay, someone was asking about autopilot. Let's just very quickly talk about autopilot. So on this boat, you've got Scott Scheuer on the computer, arm outstretched. You've got Pip Hare, just a little bit behind, and their tiller is sort of waggling behind Scott, and the computer's driving that, but they're driving the computer. So if you want to conserve a bit of energy, if you want to carry on with other tasks, you can get the computer to do it. Whereas on biotherm, that looks like Jack Boutel now is helming. So he's decided, no, I don't want a computer to do it. I'm going to do it. If the computer was doing it, he'd be driving the computer. He'd be teaching the computer. It would be essentially like having another person, and you'd say, oh, try going down a bit more, try going up a bit more, try going a bit more for speed, try going whatever. But when it gets a bit light and a bit fickle, the sailors, I mean, come on, pretty much universally, when it gets light, they all think, I'm better than a computer. The people that build the computers would disagree. But the sailors know their boats very well. So Jack Boutel is now on the helm, and I think that's Sam Goodchild's chance to just sort of dial in and have a little bit of a look at the navigation and their sort of the next plan. And these two young British guys, they are quite a pair. They've raced against each other, near each other, and it's lovely to see these two people who have been sort of skirting this race. Obviously Jack's been involved for a long time, they've been winning it, but now sort of racing together. Oh, okay, this is a really good question. We're on Canada Ocean Racing, but while we just sort of enjoy the sailing here, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Paprick Archaea, because it's a great question. Why is Paprick Archaea why is the boat so much more stable foiling than the other boats? Do they have a better foil design? Do they use the rudders to stabilize their pitch attitude? Ooh. Okay, I'm not going to go too deep into that one, because I don't know. And if I did know, I would sell that knowledge to the other teams. It is always that little bit of X factor, isn't it? I think you have to start by asking yourself that if you had Johan Richomme and his crew on Paprick Archaea and it's looking great, if you took them off and you put another crew on, would that other crew achieve the same amount of stability? I'm sure there's a good design, I'm sure there's good foil, I'm sure they found a really good sort of balance, and probably the most important thing is your foils are in one place, and where's the heaviest part of the boat? So when it rides up out of the water, is it trying to tip forward? Is it trying to tip back? Is it trying to balance itself? And it seems like Paprick Archaea has got that right. But how do they get that right? I bet you anything it's because the sailors, just like the sailors on this boat, will be dragging gear backwards and forwards. So it probably looks good on the page, but ultimately the sailors have to move the weight to keep that balance point perfect. You don't have to do it, but then you'll go slow. So how do you win this race? How do you do really well? You basically just find the energy, the effort, in the middle of the night when someone says, oh, the wind's a bit different, the waves are a bit different. You drag yourself out of bed, you pick up 300 kilos, not in one go, and you move it 2 meters further aft, further back, and then you think, oh, is that a bit better? Oh no, I'll move it a little bit further forward. And you relentlessly fine-tune that center of gravity of the boat, just through sheer physical effort. They are not choosing to get this close to the cliffs of Dover for the wind. They are looking to do that for the tide. So Team Militia, Boris Herrmann now on the helm. We talk about people wanting to take the helm rather than let the autopilot do it when it gets light. They are desperately trying to get inland. And while, on my little tracker here, while you can see Biotherm is really nicely stretched, is it just me? Or is Team Militia starting to put Paprick Archaea under a little bit of pressure there? One boat out into the deep water, into the current that's running against them, pushing them back up. And Team Militia trying to hug the coast and get out of the current.
Nice party again. Comme ça, c'est bon, Boris. You can sail a bit higher if you feel you have wind. Or stay where you think is good. Yeah.
This is the trade-off.
Yeah.
They can push themselves out of the bad current, but then potentially they move themselves out of the good wind. And that's a real balance. And that's why they're all looking a little bit stressed. That's why they're looking a little bit nervous. So there's a good question. Someone's asked about the living space on board. And the difference in room below deck is amazing. Do they all have the same volume space to work with? I mean, here's a really good one. So this is Canada Ocean Basin. This is looking forward. And that's their sleeping. Cooking. I think I can see a little kettle in the middle of the screen, just underneath some of the shelving, some of the tunneling for the ropes. So they've decided when they built that boat, that's all the space that somebody needs. That was that was 11th Hour Racing Team, and they designed that boat for the ocean race. So for 4 or 5 people, and that's the amount of space they had. But Boris Herman, and I'm not saying that Charlie Enright and that everybody else doesn't put their crew first, but Boris Herman went comfort over everything else. It needs to be comfortable. If my crew is comfortable, then they will sail fast and they will push hard. And I would say that well, there you go. There's a perfect example of the difference. So this boat was made, this used to be Hugo Boss, 2019. Just look at the difference. Imagine trying to live in that. And the reason that is so small is because the decision was, let's make the boat as fast as possible. Let's make the roof as low as possible so that the wind isn't sort of bashing into the structure. Let's make more space for the hull to twist and curve in certain areas. And if it's hard work for the sailors, then it's hard work for the sailors, but it'll be fine. And Team Militia and Boris Herman 100% have gone the other way. And they went, no, we're going to make it big, bold. I'm not going to use the word beautiful because you can disagree with me, but I don't think it is. But it is incredibly functional. And after the last ocean race, there were lots of people who are saying, I need more comfort in my boat because it didn't hurt Team Militia in the last round the world race. Boris Herman was right. His crew were happy. His crew were able to work really hard. You can see it, just how tall it is. And that bit that you're seeing sticking out there is the sleeping quarters. So they've got massive sleeping quarters, they've got massive living quarters. It's, it's rather nice. Have you ever seen this guy's hair looking out of place? That's what you can do when you've got space down below. So this is the onboard reporter, just giving us that little view of Boris Herman.
You're filming your phone or what?
Yeah. Cool. Alright. I don't know. Testing something?
There's a lighthouse.
We don't hear that much from the onboard reporters because they're always behind the camera. But they really are part of the crew. So Will Harris on the left, Justine Matreau on the right. Will Harris is an amazing character. Will Harris is really turned into like Boris Herman's right-hand man. They are absolutely partners in crime, and I think it's amazing how much Boris Herman has. Don't get me wrong, Will Harris, amazing sailor, but he saw something in Will Harris before other people did, and he was right. He was absolutely right. He's found an incredible person to sort of join forces with, but it's amazing to see that partnership, and they're a little different. They're a little different, but they complement each other so well. They are playing a very delicate game here. A very delicate game.
I don't mind.
We need to wait anyways and see.
Yeah, I think I would just keep going for now while get away from this point a little bit and see what the wind does.
I think they're trying to decide which way around the ferry they go. There's a ferry just in front. You can just make it out through those ropes. And this is obviously the Dover-Calais-Calais-Dover ferry. you've got to give way to that traffic. They're so close to the shore, and if they could, I bet you anything they'd want to be a little bit closer still. I put them up on the map here, so they're really tucking in tight. You know, 1/5 of a mile, something like that. The space between Dover and the exclusion zone is about 5 miles. So they're really trying to sort of tuck in, and it's all to do with getting out of that tide. And the reason why Will Harris and Justin Matrew were sort of debating, do we keep going up? Do we keep going down? There's a ferry there. Which side of it do we want to go? How it's all going to play out? This is their make or break moment. This is their make or break moment on day 4 after eating freeze-dried food for all this time, after their socks have all been soaked and everything's starting to get smelly and they're all getting tired and they've far too little sleep. Now they've got to make a really important decision. Well, they found the breeze again. Boat's leaning up again. You can see all that on the tracker if you want. Manoeuvre time for Biotha. So they are bouncing back north off the exclusion zone, and they're looking very comfortably in the lead. So 4 people on deck for this manoeuvre. How many do I see? So you've got about, there's like 30 ropes, lines in front of you with all sorts of different stuff. You've got the Kiel pump that she's working. Is that Kiel? Or is that, no, Kiel's going to be hydraulic battery pump. So is that going to be foil? Or it could be Vang. Each of these boats are a little bit different. They just wedged into the roof. Sam Goodchild's not the shortest. And that roof being low for the performance game, and then right now you're hunched over. That's it. So, tap completed. More and more people getting out of bed. Chris Pratt in the black. Brian Thompson, he has got his, can't see his head, he's got his hand on the tiller. Their turn now to go for a manoeuvre. So if we started with Biotherm, Paprika Kea, Team Militia, and we're going back, they're a good way back here. This is that tide and that wind really stretching the fleet now. So you can see the tracks of all the other boats that have gone before them. So, Pip here. I believe, I can't quite remember, and I don't want to say somebody's age incorrectly, but Pip Hare is fitter and stronger and older than me. And whenever I step on board one of these boats for a jolly, the sailors always love to to get you on the winch handles and make you do it. And I'm well aware of how difficult it is, and I don't want to get involved. So to see these guys still pushing really hard. Now, this is really interesting. Every single time we go to Paprika Arcade, and one of you guys did ask, does Johan ever yield his throne? This is Johan Richom's boat. Johan Richom is the guy that's sitting there, the skipper. He is sitting there on his computer. Pascal Badigri is a two-time winner of the ocean race, and he is on the coffee grinders, the winch handles, with Corentin as well. Mariana just sitting at the back. And Johan, that throne, that chair, that has been molded to him. That's carbon fiber molded to him. It is on a suspension system. So it's by far and away the most comfortable place on the boat, by miles. And when he is on deck, I have never, ever seen anybody else sit in that chair. I've seen other people sit in that chair when he's asleep, but when he comes out, everybody just steps out of the way. And every single time, hi Pascal, every single time it is Pascal Badigri and Johan Richom. They seem to be on watch together. Pascal is always the one that's working the winch handles, and Johan is somehow always in the comfy seat. But then I guess it's your boat, it's your show, and he's done a lap of the planet solo on this boat. So if that seat wasn't molded to his contours before, I'm sure it is now. So we're going to leave the boats to continue on their way. We expect about 10, maybe 12 hours of sailing left in this race. And if you want to kind of get all the latest and all the action, the best place to do that is Warner Brothers. We've got a bi-weekly update shows. It's called Onboard, and it's out there on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Warner Brothers. You can follow the race on TNT Sports, Discovery Plus, Eurosport, HBO Max. So if you haven't yet found your way to that output, the ocean race Onboard, that is your perfect, digestible, all the big highs, all the big lows, all the big stories. That's the place to go. So we're going to wrap up. We're going to leave these boats sailing. We're going to hope that Boris Herman and Team Milizia have played things right. Yeah, good luck, Boris. We're going to leave them trying to dart into the coast, and we're going to see if Biotherm can hold that lead. All right, good luck, everybody.